Welcome to A Taste of Theater, where everyone is a star. This is the place where playwrights from around the country will come to showcase one scene of their play. Today's star is shining bright on Randy Nugent of New York, New York. We will see a clip of his play, Hard Traveling with Woody. And now, let's welcome our host, Victor Gully. Welcome to A Taste of Theater, where everyone is a star. Today's star is shining bright on Randy Nugent. We will see a clip of his play, Hard Traveling with Woody. Randy, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Randy Nugent, and I'm from Indiana, but I've been in New York for 25 years, and I just wrote this show, Hard Traveling with Woody, for the Fringe Festival in New York City in 2011. And it was so fun, and the reviews were good, and it has legs. So I've been playing it now all over the country.
That's amazing.
2 years.
So tell me, how did you come up with the concept for this show?
I was looking for a one-man show. I used to do a Hank Williams play called Lost Highway, where I discovered that it is 3 times as fun to be on stage if you're playing music with a band. Mm-hmm. And so I began looking for what artists could I cover besides Hank, because Hank died at 29, and I started growing out of that role. So I found Woody Guthrie. A friend of mine turned me on to his biography, Bound for Glory. It turns out he has leftist politics, which I share, mm-hmm. and his songs, Bob Dylan talks about Woody as being his initial hero. Mm-hmm. Bob left Minnesota to come to New York looking for Woody Guthrie. Bruce Springsteen talks about Woody. Most of my favorite singer-songwriters were influenced by Woody Guthrie, who was really the first alternative singer-songwriter, really. So I began looking at his songs, reading his books. He has a lot of great humor, mm-hmm. So that's helpful in a one-man show. And it turns out that he was a union rabble-rouser. He played for unions with Pete Seeger and Will Geer, who played Grandpa on The Waltons, mm-hmm. but Will Geer used to be a union advocate. And so it turns out that I could, doing a one-man show about Woody Guthrie would allow me to say what I really feel, mm-hmm. using Woody to do it. And since unions are still a question in this country, yes. People are, there's a lot of controversy about whether they're good, whether they're bad, and I know I'm for unions, not that they're perfect, but they certainly got us our 8-hour day and our weekends, and
they got fair hours for a lot of workers.
Right. Our food workers now, I know that they're striking.
Yes.
The people who work for McDonald's want $15 an hour, and I think that's a reasonable living wage.
Yes.
And so it's a subject matter that I care about and that I can also make an entertaining show about. So I learned to play the harmonica. I already did play the guitar. And turns out Woody's songs had a certain trajectory. Oklahoma Hills, for instance, is about where he was born, and Hard Traveling is about all the workers that came to his town looking for work during the Depression. And Bound for Glory is a train song. It's about traveling to California. After the dust storm, Woody had to find work. There was nothing to do in Oklahoma, so he went to California. So a lot of the songs tell the story. So I only have to write little things from Woody's book, and also I have to embellish and write my own things too, to make bridges between the songs. But my show is set at a union meeting for steel workers that are striking for safe mines and a living wage. And so he was called the saint of the working man, the poet of the people. And I had done some Steinbeck before. I did Of Mice and Men as an actor, and I loved talking that vernacular. It's really fun to say the kind of things, the verbiage that people used at that time. So it was really a perfect storm for me to find a character that I could truthfully portray, who said all the things that I really do believe too.
Wow. So, after people watch your play, what's it that you want them to walk away with?
I'd like them to walk away with a respect for the working man, and a respect for the union that protects them and gives them wages and safe working conditions and, you know, health plans, and so it's a little bit propaganda. It's a little bit preaching, not preachy, but preaching. And I would love to do the show in Ohio and Wisconsin and the places where the unions are being weakened by certain politicians. And so another vote always comes around in 4 years, and I would like to do my show for young people who don't quite understand unions right now, or who believe that
What they hear on the news about.
right. So I wouldn't mind helping the cause and being an activist too in my art form. I would rather my art form also have something to do with how a map for living, a way to live our lives better.
Wonderful. So is this your first play that you've written, or have you written others?
I've written, 5 or 6 other plays. I went to the University of Iowa, their playwriting program, and so I've written a play called You Can't Trust the Mail that's published, a play called Unbeatable Harold, which was made into a feature film. It's available on Netflix, I think, and Amazon. It's called Unbeatable Harold. It's starring Dylan McDermott, who was on The Practice, and I think he's now on American Nightmare. He's on one of a new show. And with Charles Durning and Phyllis Diller and Gladys Knight, and a lot of good stars are in this film version of Unbeatable Harold. And other plays, The Complaint. You can find my plays at randynugent.com, RANDYNOOJIN.com. You can find my plays available there. And Woody, Hard Travelin' with Woody has a website too called hardtravelinshow.com, where you can find out more about that show. It runs from 60 minutes. There's a 60-minute version here for the Fringe. There's also a 75-minute version. It has projections. I use video and slides to accentuate what I'm talking about. So there's some spectacle to the show too, and I like to play for unions and any event really. I play for retirement communities. I play in libraries. I play for high schools and colleges, and so I'm available anywhere where anybody wants to hear more about Woody Guthrie.
Wonderful. So just in case someone didn't have their pen handy, can you tell them where they can find your website again?
Yes, hardtravelinshow.com and randynugent.com. Either of those will get you to find out more about this show and my other plays. And I'm just an actor too. I did a Boardwalk Empire last year, and I'm doing plays and television and film and trying to do a little bit of everything.
Wow, and you're doing this all over the country.
Yes. One more day in Chicago, but day after tomorrow I'm going to San Diego and San Luis Obispo and playing for unions in Minnesota and San Antonio and touring Canada in November.
Wow, that is impressive.
Thank you.
So, if you had to tell me what was the hardest part of writing for this particular play, what would that have been?
To getting the balance right. The play keeps changing. I keep finding out from different audiences as I roll along. I need this, and once I added projections, I had to rewrite because I wanted to talk about more of Woody's art. Part of the projections are Woody was I wouldn't say a great painter, drawer, but he had great enthusiasm and he loved it. And I wanted to show people what his art was. And So that changed it. So the hard thing is finding out how much you can tell. Woody has such drama in his life that I could not fit into my show because of the context. I'm in a union hall, and so I have to approach Woody more on his political activism facet. But there's a film called Bound for Glory with David Carradine playing Woody Guthrie. There should be another. I've heard that they're in the works. There's another film in the works by Spielberg coming out about Woody. He's an American treasure, and not enough people know about him. I know until I started writing the show, I didn't know very much about him, except that he wrote "This Land Is Your Land."
Now that song I did know.
Right. That's sometimes the limit of what people know about him. But so the hardest thing was, letting go of being able to tell everything because you can't.
Wow. And what was some of the research that you had to do in order to try and limit the show? Because I know you said people have told you things, but what other research did you have to do in order to try and limit? Woody
wrote a fantastic autobiographical novel, they call it, because he does embellish, and people call it a little bit novelized. There's a little bit of fiction to it, I suppose. But Bound for Glory is his autobiography. He also wrote a column called Woody Says. I did find a book that was a collection of those articles that he wrote and little political cartoons. And he wrote other books too. I think they've just found out. I've just read that Johnny Depp is also a Woody lover, and he has had something to do with funding an unpublished book that Woody never found a publisher for it during his life. But Johnny is helping that become available to people. But Will Kaufman is another great writer who is now an advocate of Woody's and goes around. He just wrote a book called American Radical that was a fantastic illumination of what Woody did. Woody was had a lot to do with racial civil rights. He played. He was an advocate of Leadbelly, who was one of the first black musicians that they were trying to get white audiences to listen to black music. And Woody was at peak skill when Paul Robeson tried to play there, and there was a riot. And so Woody was on the right side of all those issues. So there's a lot about Woody out there, and if you just look around in your library and in the bookstores, there's plenty to read about him.
Wow. I'm going to take a quick pause here because I want to make sure that this didn't fall out. Okay, it is all the way in. I just wanted to make sure because it looked like it was coming.
Thank goodness.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. All right, and back to our show.
Yes.
So, what was the easiest part of writing the show? Because considering it's a one-man show, it's a challenge to make it entertaining with just one person on the stage.
Part of what's easy is that if you YouTube Woody Guthrie, it's all available. Most of his music is available, and also the family maintains a website called woodyguthrie.org. That is great. It has every lyric he ever wrote. You can find all the lyrics. You can find lots of history there. His son Arlo Guthrie is still playing around, and that's easy to find. Also, what was very simple was just deciding what songs should I use.
Yeah.
They just popped out because he did write 3,000 songs, and they many of them Woody never got around to putting music to. So they've asked Billy Bragg and Jackson Browne and other artists, Wilco, to write music to some of his lyrics. Last year was the 100th anniversary of his birthday, so there were many festivals and celebrations. They did a celebration at the Kennedy Center. So there's a village out there that still loves and, and keeps Woody alive and keeps his ideas and thoughts and music alive.
Wow.
So what was easy was that he's everywhere if you start looking for him.
Yeah. And also, This Land is Your Land was a very popular tune. I remember that as a kid.
Sure. There are some verses to that song that they usually didn't put in your fifth grade music book, which Woody was not just being gung-ho patriotic with that song. He was also being critical of America. There's a verse in that song, in the squares of the city, in the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office, I saw my people, and as they stood there hungry, I stood there wondering, is this land made for you and me? He has some questions about
Wow.
America. In fact, that song was written as a response. The reason I say he's an alternative songwriter, Kate Smith's God Bless America was one of the most popular songs in America in 1940. And when Woody heard that, he hated it because the America that Woody knew was not very God blessed at that time. So, This Land Is Your Land was written. It was originally called God Blessed America. It was a response, an alternative version of a song about America, an anthemic song about America. So that song is often just thought of as almost like the Star Spangled Banner, but
Yeah.
but it has its critical verses too.
Wow. So what is it you want? If there's one thing that you want people to know about Randy Nugent, what would that be?
Well, about Randy Nugent, I guess I'm just glad that I have the sense to respect the right people, and Woody is a man worthy of our respect and our work. And I like to use my work. A lot of one-man shows are about the actor. A lot of actors just have a story to tell, and I think that's fine. I wish I thought I had a story that was interesting enough to tell, but I personally would rather keep from navel gazing too much, and so I'm proud of the fact that my heroes are the right people.
Wow, that's very powerful. And if you've been in the business now, I guess 17 years or and you went through playwriting school, and what is it that you would want the up and coming playwrights to learn from as a result of your vast years of experience?
I would say get your stuff down on paper, and then get actors together and have an informal reading. I think the playwright learns more than from critics and from people telling you what your play is, reactions from audience and things like that. I always find that I learn so much by just hearing what I wrote being said by other people in front of some little audience, even 5 people, because there's just something you realize so quickly about whether it's clear, whether you've gone on too long. You can just sense it, even if they're not laughing or fidgeting in the audience. I think there's something about it being in the public and in other people's mouths with that interaction, the characters and the audience, what's going on between those people. And young playwrights can, I think, learn the biggest chunk of what they need to know by just witnessing what you've written being presented in front of some strangers, some people who don't know the show already. And also, fail and fail and fail and keep going back. You know, it plays famous plays aren't written; they're rewritten.
Yes.
Very rarely do you write a diamond
Right out the box.
Right out the box. Right. So keep at it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a. It's not easy, and it takes persistence. I think persistence is the very main thing.
So, if you can capture what he's saying, in essence, is not only does it take, he's saying get on the court and write the play first. Don't just talk about it. Get on the court and write. And then after you've gotten it all written out, take the time to have others listen to it or review it. And then you'll find out that, oh, my grammar's not correct here or there, or my dramaturgy's off. I have people, having beepers in 1920.
Right.
Where they didn't exist.
That's right. And what's great about playwriting is the grammar sometimes doesn't matter, because the writer, we write how people talk, not how people write, and so what I always loved about playwriting was that correctness was out the window, because people don't talk correctly. Right. So you're writing for conversational language and not, graded
English.
Perfect sentences. Yeah. So it's fun to write half sentences that don't ever finish, and because that's the way people are, listening and not reading your show.
Okay. And if you can you tell us more about your show that's coming up in other parts of the country? Are you doing this just in San Francisco and then just in Canada, or are you going to be doing another show after this?
I'm booked up until about the end of this year, and so I'm always looking for other bookings. So if you're a college or a library or a union organization or anything, I'm available to make it.
Wow. All right. Well, now we're going to watch a clip of Randy Nugent's play, Hard Traveling with Woody. And we always say at the Taste of Theater, where everyone is a star, including you.
Thanks so much.
Anytime.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. In the squares of the city, in the shadow of the steeple, by the relief office, I saw my people, and as I stood there hungry, I stood there wondering, is this land made for you and me? Yes, it is. Now sing. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. Here we go now. There was a big high wall there that tried to stop me. A sign was painted, it said private property, but on the backside it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
You didn't give up on me.
Sorry I'm late. Freight trains. Ain't reliable. But they fit my price range. Shoot, I'm so broke. If it wasn't for bad breath, I wouldn't have a cent. Well, I like your union hall here at the United Mine Workers Local 92. Now, remember this, and I won't mention it again unless I do, and I'm sure I will. One, it is never a sin to say amen. Amen? Amen. And two, it is never wrong to sing along. Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Come on, you good workers, good news to you I'll tell. How that good old union has come in here to dwell. Sing, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Good. Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with this union till every battle's won. Sing, which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks ain't got a chance unless we organize. Sing. Born the year that Woodrow Wilson was nominated to be the president. My mama and papa was so worked up in good and bad politics, they went and named me Woodrow Wilson too. I tried to talk them out of it. Woodrow Wilson Guthrie, which is too much of a name for a country boy, so I sawed off all the fancy work and just left Woody. I could remember that. Many a month has come and gone since I wandered from my home in these Oklahoma hills where I was born. Many a page of life has turned, many a lesson I have learned. Feel like in these hills I still belong. Way down yonder in the Indian Nation, riding my pony on a reservation in the Oklahoma hills where I was born. Way down yonder in the Indian Nation, the cowboy's life was my occupation in the Oklahoma hills where I was born. Hear me on these nationwide radio programs and thinks I'm rich and famous when I don't have a nickel to my name. Now, I stuck my head in some fancy places, but there's just one thing that can cut you to drifting from the people, and that's any brand or style of greed. And there's just one way to save yourself from that, and that's to keep getting together and working and fighting for everybody. So I know I'm grateful to be edging my way back along here, singing with the people, singing something with fight and guts, belly laughs, and dynamite to it. Speaking of dynamite, I smell Mrs. Horton's chili. Now, I don't claim to be nothing fancy. Your own damn head's just as good as mine. I got a one-cylinder brain. All I know is we all gotta stick together. This country won't ever get much better as long as it's dog eat dog, every man for himself, and to hell with the rest of the world. Now, all I care about is the fight of the working people to win back your fair and honest share of the earth. Now, what would the coal in these hills be worth unless you put your strength and muscle into bringing it? You've dug out 100 mountains of wealth, and yet your wages won't feed your families. Now, I ain't in favor of a bloody revolution, and you ain't either. But I'm in favor of a change in things that'll give you